All I wanted was $100 million in a bag. Oh, hi. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to John Dudley Speaks. I'm your host, Hood Rat. Kanye West. Been a rough couple years for him. That he caused. I could say that it goes without saying that Kanye West's inflammatory comments in 2022 are absolutely shameful, but I won't. It should be shouted from the rooftops that his behavior, his words, his actions not only irresponsibly reflected bigoted hate speech, but it led to further hate speech that was conducted in his name. Obviously, Kanye has been trying to change the narrative around himself in the last year especially, hosting listening parties with a very casual vibe, while still diving back into his hateful, uninformed rhetoric, just in a minimized fashion. He has since apologized, and with the rollout of Vultures, it's clear he's ready to make a splash again in the musical sphere, but this time with Ty Dolla Sign by his side, forming the supergroup Ye and Dolla, get it? I've been conflicted about covering the Vultures project since Kanye's been known to tinker with his projects since the release of The Life of Pablo, making it feel like the released product isn't the final version. There always seems to be some sort of patch down the line. But also, I was planning to cover all three at the same time, but as of today, Kanye's vastly off schedule. So with Vultures 1, the question I had going into it was, were we going to see Kanye West double down? Not just on his viewpoints, but on his muddled mixing and maximalist ideas? Or would we see him cede his ground to Ty Dolla Sign to highlight his approach to artistry? And on Vultures 1, it's neither. Instead, we get a sporadically fun, delightfully strange, painfully cringy, chaotically bad Kanye album trapped within probably the best Ty Dolla Sign album of his career. By far the best component of this album is its production, and that's par for the course for Kanye West. And though the production is many steps above his worst work behind the boards, I do feel like it is lacking something most of the time. Stars and Keys to My Life feel steeped in the pitch black aura that was found on Donda, an aesthetic I really like. Here it's not as engaging, but it's still very stark in its balance between simplicity and bombast. The Club Ray bangers like Paid, Do It, and Paperwork retread old ground and just don't add anything compelling. And that's despite being solid tracks. It's just that Kanye's done hip house before, and he's done it better before, and he's done it with better mixing before. But when Kanye's production works here, it's truly fantastic. Back to Me features crashing drums a la Kids See Ghosts, while the trap-heavy anthems like Carnival and Fuck Something are oozing cinematic flair. Even Talking plays around with some pretty intriguing dynamics. The contributions from Kaytranada, 88 Keys, Swizz Beatz, James Blake, JPEG Mafia, and No ID feel a little drowned out by Kanye's creative identity on this project. And that's for worse on tracks like Hood Rat, but it's for much better throughout the album when it comes to tracks like Good, Don't Die, and Burn. Overall, it's not quite where you want a Kanye West produced record to be, but even lower tier production from Kanye has elements that producers would beg to have in their own albums. I got 6 words. What the hell were they thinking? Save for a few special moments like Kanye's verse on Burn or Ty's vulnerability on Beg Forgiveness or some stray bars here and there, the lyrical content here is absolutely horrendous. Not only does Kanye prove that he can't string together a cohesive thought or theme, but his personality and viewpoints still bleed into his sporadic, uninspired, and often empty lyricism. There are passages in this record where the tracklist is rolling, but Kanye derails it completely. The magnetism in Back to Me is marred by Kanye's insistence on using the same line over and over and over again, to a point where he kind of beats a dead horse that was already beaten when he used the line the first time. Sure, yeah, it's fun, but like when assessing the album in the context of the artist that has written it and what that artist has written in the past, it's a total dumpster fire. And also, it nearly ruins a terrific Freddie Gibbs verse. Ty Dolla Sign's lyricism doesn't really make enough of an impact to drive down the project's weight, and that's just because most of his work on the lyrical side is mired in banality on this project. So when juxtaposed to Kanye's erratic, misogynistic, and problematic bars, it ends up leaving a pretty bad taste in your mouth, even on the comparatively good tracks. If only Kanye didn't lay down vocals for this album, because Ty does a great job for the most part in terms of performance, and so do most of the features. But I'm genuinely blown away by how bad Kanye's voice actually sounds on this record. His fuzzy, clipping, grumbly, unwieldy performance is jarring at times, and unintentionally hilarious at others. The Roxanne interpolation on Paid is god-awful, and everything about Hood Rat is downright abysmal. Kanye does bring it on Burn and Carnival, so I'll concede that he can still emphatically drive a track forward when he wants to. But the thing is, he often doesn't want to do much more than just take shots and rattle off shock and awe lyricism, and he performs it in a way that doesn't inspire anything but annoyance and frustration. Performance-wise, it's the worst he's ever come off on a record, and that's saying something considering his terrible performance on Jesus is King. At 16 tracks, the album varies from exciting to excruciating in its listening experience. And with such a jumbled mix of quality across the record, we really don't get a consistency of bad tracks or good tracks. It's just a spotted mess. The record doesn't start off with the punch that it really needs to kick off, and it doesn't really shift into the next gear until Back to Me, but Hood Rat offsets that completely by killing whatever momentum that was going to come from that track. The middle to latter part of the album is the best part of the album, featuring tracks like Burn, Carnival, Fuck Something, Good, Don't Die, and Problematic. All of these songs are cohesive in terms of the track listing. Although, I gotta say, when the songwriting gaffes get in the way of the track listing, it hinders the flow of the record, even though these songs are cohesive in terms of the track listing. So instead of immersing us in that atmosphere, Kanye's vapid lyrics and stilted presentation really take us out of it.
I'm just here to get paid. I'm just here to get paid. I'm just here to get paid.
Yeah, so this was a major disappointment for me. I'm hoping that Kanye and Ty go back to the drawing board for Vultures 2 now that it's been pushed back, and really figure out what they can improve about the good parts of this album and ditch the ideas that just don't work. But that's if Vultures 2 is still going to come out, which, knowing Kanye, it might not. But that's just my perspective. If you're a Kanye fan, I think you might love it, you might hate it, you might fall in between like me and just not get it. And if you don't like Kanye, I think we know how you're going to feel about this album, and that's valid. That's all I got, though. See ya!